Yeah, I was beginning to seriously wonder whether I was going to live to get to Vietnam. We flew out of San Francisco, Oakland, to Anchorage, Alaska, and then we were going to go from Anchorage to Japan, Tokyo, and then on to Vietnam from there. And on the way to Anchorage, we had a hydraulic problem in this DC 8, which was a stretch 8. The fuselage had been elongated to carry more troops. There was a couple hundred guys on there at least. And me and two other guys, classmates of mine in flight school, were the only officers on board. We were warrant officers, and they were all enlisted men, and they were pretty rowdy. Understandably, because they didn't want to go where they were going either. We broke down in Anchorage. They had to work on the aircraft overnight, so we all went out, and everybody's back at 800 in the morning. We took off, and then had another hydraulic problem. And for those who are not experienced in aviation, the pilot said there was a minor hydraulic problem. Well, in my opinion, there's no such thing as a minor hydraulic problem. If you lose hydraulics in an airliner, you lose it. I mean, you have no control over the damn thing. And then we had to turn back around and go back into Anchorage for another night. And then we, on the way across the Pacific, we ran into another hydraulic problem, and same thing happened in Japan. So we got to go out in Tokyo and see it. And then the captain remarked that if it wasn't fixed this time, he wasn't flying it anymore. And then we went into Vietnam from there. But it took about 4 days or 5 days to get over there.
And when you had these overnight stays, you were one of the few officers on the flight, so you were in charge of.
When we broke down in Anchorage the first time, a major come walking up to us, who's a field grade officer, and the three warrants, me and the two other, were standing there. He said, "All right, who's in charge here?" And these other two guys elected me. They pointed at me, and so I was just kind of on the spot. And he looked at me and he looked at my name tag. He said, "And is it a warrant officer? A senior officer called you Mister." So he said, "Mr. Garrison." Something like, "Yeah, you better have these animals here at 800 hours in the morning." And he said, "I don't envy your job. May God have mercy on your soul," and turned around and walked off because he just basically washed his hands of it. He didn't want anything to do with it. But we were all there at 800 in the morning. I had a formation then and told him at parade rest, I said, "I don't care what you do tonight. Doesn't make any difference to me. As long as you're here at 800 hours in the morning and the Anchorage Police Department doesn't want you." You know, and that was an interesting evening that I get into in the book.
So when you got to Vietnam, they kept sending you farther and further north.
Yeah.
That's where the hottest action was at. How'd you feel making your way towards Camp Holloway?
I thought the damn guys were going to send me to Hanoi or Haiphong Harbor and catch the bombs from our Air Force jets. I mean, I didn't know how. They just kept sending me further north. And that was up in the mountains. In Vietnam, it's the Delta, the Mekong Delta flat. Then you get in 2 Corps and start again in the mountains, and then 3 Corps mountains, 4 Corps mountains. No, I'm sorry. It's 4 Corps and 3 Corps down south, and then 2 Corps where I was in the mountains. And then there's I Corps, or First Corps, which is up north by the DMZ. That's the most mountainous part of what was South Vietnam. And they sent me. We flew into, I think it was Long Ben or Ben Hoa near Saigon, and then Vince and Larry, the guys I flew over with, we said goodbye. They got orders and they went somewhere. I don't know exactly where they went. And they sent me to Nha Trang on the coast, which is further north. And then they got me on another airplane and sent me to Quy Nhon, which is further north. And I was asking the guys there that about Quy Nhon. I said, well, that's great here. And they said, just hope they don't send you up to Holloway up in Pleiku, up the DMZ. And I said, why? I said, well, that's got a nickname. It's called Rocket City because they get rocketed more than anybody else. And I said, well, surely won't have that kind of luck. Well, the next morning they come down with orders, and Garrison was going to Holloway. So I wound up at the DMZ in Camp Holloway with the 119th. With may I say, the greatest bunch of guys I've ever known in my life. They're just, to a man, just fantastic.
And pretty good pilots too, right?
They were excellent pilots. I mean, they were just excellent. I don't remember a bad one.
So you're coming from flight school, and you had just had 212 hours of flight school.
Yeah, you thought, yeah.
You thought you were a pretty good pilot?
Oh, well, you thought you were pretty competent, yeah. And you found out pretty quick. When you first got to Vietnam, you had to be a co-pilot to learn the terrain. You had to learn to listen to 3 radios at once, for God's sake. FM for the ground troops, VHF for the other troop deployments, or UHF for the other troop deployments, and VHF for the other gunships. And 3 conversations at once is hard to do, until you get used to it. People generally don't listen to 3 people talking to them at once, and you have to catch every word, or people may die. And that was one of the hardest things to do. And so you flew co-pilot for maybe a couple hundred hours or something before you were ready for aircraft commander, and then you got promoted to that. And almost everybody started in slicks, or troop deployments, which was the UH-1H Huey, the H model Huey helicopter built by Bell in Texas. And she was a great ship. But as I explained in the book, I decided to go to guns later because of what you had to do in the slick. I have the utmost respect for the slick pilot. And they had to get in some awfully tight holes in the jungle.